They told you the kitchen is just a room, 4 walls, a table, a stove, a place where you feed your body. But they were wrong. The kitchen is where you feed your soul without even knowing it. It's where your habits cook your future. It's where your silence becomes prayer or poison. It's where your heart learns what it truly worships. Every morning, when you boil the water and pour the coffee, when you slice the bread or heat the pan, you are not just making breakfast. You are performing a ritual. And the danger is not in the act itself, but in what kind of spirit you bring into it. Witchcraft, my friend, does not begin with a spell. It begins with distraction. It begins when the ordinary becomes unconscious, when you live without awareness, without gratitude, without reverence for the small moments that shape your being. You open the door. The first thing in your kitchen that invites witchcraft is neglect. Neglect of the sacred in the simple. Neglect of the divine that lives in the rhythm of washing, cutting, pouring. Because when you neglect meaning, the void does not stay empty. It fills itself with noise, envy, comparison, and vanity. Witchcraft enters not through a spell book, but through the habit of rushing. It hides behind your hurry, behind your scrolling, behind your sighs when you think no one hears you. Neglect turns the home into a hollow place. It makes the heart cold while the stove burns hot. And slowly the soul forgets that life was never about survival, but sanctity. The second thing in your kitchen that invites witchcraft is complaint. That invisible incense of bitterness that fills the air each time you mutter about what you don't have, what you deserve, or how unfair life has been. C.S. Lewis once said that hell begins with a grumble, a small murmur that turns into a permanent vibration of resentment. You see, witchcraft is not always dark robes and candles. It's the inner rebellion against gratitude. When you curse what feeds you, when you find fault in your daily bread, you whisper spells you don't understand. You call upon the spirit of lack, the spirit of comparison, the spirit that blinds you to the miracle of now. But when you bless your food, when you smile at the humble act of eating, you invite angels to dine with you. Heaven sits down at your table when gratitude becomes your first meal of the day. The third thing that invites witchcraft into your kitchen is excess, the false god of more. The illusion that if 1 slice of cake comforts you, then 2 will heal you. That if 1 cup of coffee wakes you, 5 will make you alive. Witchcraft thrives in excess because it feeds on imbalance. It teaches you to trade meaning for sensation, to fill your plate but starve your soul. Excess is the religion of the modern world, where everything can be bought and nothing can satisfy. And so the kitchen becomes a temple of indulgence rather than intention. We cook not to nourish, but to numb. We eat not to live, but to forget. And when pleasure becomes your master, you become the altar. Witchcraft enters in the moment you believe you are only body and forget that you are spirit clothed in flesh. The fourth thing in your kitchen that invites witchcraft is waste, not only of food, but of time, of attention, of care. Waste is the silent decay of gratitude. When you throw away what others pray for, you forget your place in the circle of mercy. Waste whispers the lie that you are entitled to abundance without stewardship. But real wealth, my friend, is not measured by how much you can consume. It is measured by how deeply you can appreciate. The kitchen teaches this every day. The fruit that spoils because you never noticed it, the meal half-eaten because you were lost in thought, the water running while you scroll your phone, all are small betrayals of the sacred. Waste is spiritual blindness dressed as convenience. Witchcraft loves that blindness, because every time you waste, you say to the universe, I do not see the miracle in what I have. The fifth thing that invites witchcraft is division, the unseen tension that creeps into the air when family members sit together but do not speak, when love is replaced with sarcasm, when silence becomes heavier than words. Division is witchcraft's favorite doorway. It turns the kitchen table, once an altar of communion, into a courtroom of pride. Here is the truth. You cannot curse another without poisoning your own cup. Every argument, every cold shoulder, every withheld apology brews a darker spell than you realize. Witchcraft is the energy of separation, but the divine is unity. The holy is wholeness. So when you forgive, when you laugh again, when you share a meal with open hearts, you drive the darkness out, not by exorcism, but by love. And the sixth, most dangerous thing in your kitchen that invites witchcraft is idleness, the laziness of the soul, the refusal to grow, the quiet surrender to mediocrity. When the dishes pile up, when the routine becomes a rut, when your spirit says tomorrow one too many times, that's when spiritual decay begins. Witchcraft thrives in stagnation, because when you are idle, you do not stand still, you sink. You rot in comfort. You settle for less while calling it peace. Idleness is the devil's holiday, and your mind becomes his playground. But to act, to move, to strive toward goodness is to resist the pull of the void. Each small act of order, cleaning, cooking, caring, becomes a prayer. Discipline is divine armor. Consistency is sacred fire. The enemy of your soul is not the witch outside, but the comfort within. So, look around your kitchen. Look at your life. It's not about pots or pans, it's about presence. The 6 things that invite witchcraft are not objects, they are attitudes. Neglect, complaint, excess, waste, division, and idleness. They are the dark alchemy of the human spirit when it forgets gratitude, humility, and purpose. But the antidote is simple. Awareness, gratitude, intention. These are the true spells of the saints. They transform the ordinary into the holy, the mundane into the miraculous. And maybe that's what C.S. Lewis was trying to tell us all along, that the war between light and darkness is not fought in castles or cathedrals, but in kitchens. In every small decision, to love or to hate, to care or to ignore, to bless or to complain, the world is not waiting for grand heroes. It's waiting for awakened souls who know that holiness begins in the home. So tonight, when you walk into your kitchen, do not just see the dishes and the stove, see the altar. See the holy space where gratitude can burn brighter than any flame, where forgiveness can feed more deeply than any meal. And remember, every moment you choose awareness over apathy, love over bitterness, gratitude over greed, you cast out every shadow. You cleanse the house. You bless your home. Because true witchcraft is not in the broomstick, it's in the blindness. And true holiness is not in the church, it's in the choice. The kitchen, my friend, is a mirror of your inner life. Every surface, every crumb, every cup left unwashed carries the reflection of your state within. You think you live in your home, but truthfully, your home lives in you. The clutter on the counter becomes the clutter in your thoughts. The cold leftovers in your fridge mirror the dreams you said you'd reheat one day but never did. Every corner tells a story your lips have forgotten how to speak. Witchcraft is not the scream of evil spirits. It's the whisper of disorder that convinces you chaos is normal. It's the subtle erosion of excellence. The voice that says, "Why bother?" when your spirit once shouted, "Do it right." The devil does not enter through fire and smoke, he walks in through neglect and familiarity. Because once you stop caring for what you have, you stop being capable of receiving more. There is a strange sorcery in forgetfulness. The human heart has a habit of making the miraculous mundane. You get used to breathing, so you stop thanking. You get used to eating, so you stop noticing. You get used to waking up every morning with eyes that see and hands that move, and soon you treat these as rights instead of gifts. And that, perhaps, is the oldest spell of all the enchantment of entitlement. It blinds the soul to beauty. It turns abundance into boredom. You see, witchcraft in its truest form is not about controlling others. It's about forgetting the divine order within yourself. The moment you stop recognizing your life as sacred, darkness starts writing your story for you, and this blindness spreads. It begins in the kitchen, but it doesn't stay there. It leaks into your relationships, your work, your dreams. You start living as if you're owed something. You eat without gratitude. You work without passion. You pray without heart. And the worst part, you start calling that normal. You start calling apathy peace. You call avoidance wisdom. You call comfort success. That's witchcraft. The subtle inversion of values, where what once lifted your soul now lulls it to sleep. The great tragedy of man is not that he sins, but that he stops noticing when he does. There was a time when your ancestors treated the table like an altar. Before a single bite, they bowed their heads. They believed food wasn't just fuel, it was fellowship with the unseen. They thanked the soil, the sun, the rain, the hands that prepared it. They knew that every loaf was a miracle of patience, and every sip of water was mercy disguised as routine. But modern man, proud in his progress, has replaced prayer with scrolling, gratitude with complaint. He eats fast, speaks loud, and wonders why he feels empty. He feeds the stomach and starves the soul. He fills the house with light bulbs, but lives in darkness. He thinks witchcraft is in old books, not realizing it's in his habits. There is a power that lives in rhythm. The act of washing the dishes, done with awareness, becomes meditation. The slicing of vegetables becomes a hymn, if done in gratitude. But when done in anger, when done in haste, it becomes spiritual noise. You see, everything you touch either blesses or curses you, depending on the state of your heart. The broom in a grateful hand cleanses. In a resentful hand, it curses. The same object, the same act, two different worlds. The physical world bends to the posture of your inner life. That's why witchcraft begins where reverence ends. And isn't it strange how the kitchen, the most humble room in the house, is the most spiritual of all? It's the one that feeds every other room. It's the womb of the home. And yet it's here that the soul most often decays, because here is where we think the least and consume the most. Here is where we act out our true beliefs, not the ones we speak, but the ones we live. The kitchen reveals whether you are a builder or a consumer, a giver or a taker, awake or asleep. And perhaps that's why life keeps leading you back to these ordinary places to test the extraordinary truth. Can you be faithful in the small? Can you stay awake in the mundane? Because if you can't bless the bread, you won't bless the breakthrough. If you can't handle your kitchen, you won't handle your kingdom. The discipline of the sacred always begins in the ordinary. Witchcraft teaches you to worship sensation over substance, to believe that what's exciting must be meaningful, and what's slow must be worthless. That's why the modern soul burns bright and fades fast. It confuses stimulation for purpose. You chase the next thing, the next dopamine hit, the next validation, and the kitchen, your daily altar, becomes a forgotten wasteland. The mind calls it boredom, but the spirit calls it exile. You have exiled yourself from your own temple. You've traded intimacy for entertainment. You've turned devotion into distraction. But here's the paradox. Healing doesn't begin in the extraordinary. It begins in the sink. It begins with the first act of awareness. When you stop treating your chores as burdens and start treating them as sacraments, you awaken a dormant power inside you, the ability to make the ordinary holy again. That's when witchcraft dies, when awareness returns. Remember this. The enemy of your soul is not the one who shouts at you. It's the one who whispers. It's no big deal. Every time you lower your standards, every time you dismiss what is sacred as trivial, a piece of your fire goes out, and you wonder why the world feels cold. You wonder why your dreams feel far away. You wonder why peace doesn't last. It's because you've mistaken convenience for freedom. True freedom is not doing whatever you want. It's doing what's right even when no one sees. Your kitchen, your home, your habits, they are the battlefield between the seen and the unseen. That's where the witchcraft of apathy fights the divine discipline of awareness. It's not about pots or pans. It's about your perception. Do you see this moment as holy, or do you dismiss it as another Tuesday? Every choice answers that question. And the cost of blindness is heavy. Because once you stop honoring the small, you will sabotage the great. The person who can't wash a cup with gratitude will never carry a crown with grace. That's why the greatest souls in history, saints, artists, prophets, were not born from palaces. They were forged in kitchens, workshops, deserts, quiet places, where no one applauded but heaven watched. They learned to find divinity in detail. They understood that witchcraft doesn't start with magic, it starts with forgetting who you are. And who are you? You are the keeper of a sacred house, the guardian of meaning, the steward of time and spirit and soil. You are not called to escape the world, you are called to sanctify it, to bring heaven into the humblest corners of your day, to turn your kitchen into a cathedral by the way you live, the way you love, the way you care. The modern man mocks these things. He calls reverence outdated, discipline oppressive, simplicity boring. But that is the whisper of the spell, the great enchantment of modern witchcraft, the worship of the self. Do what you want, it says. Follow your feelings. But what happens when your feelings are fickle, when they change with the weather? Then you become a servant to emotion rather than a master of it. And that is slavery, not freedom. C.S. Lewis warned that the road to hell is gradual, paved with soft shoulders and pleasant paths. It's not a leap, it's a drift. You don't sell your soul in one night. You leak it drop by drop every time you choose ease over effort, pride over patience, comfort over conviction. Witchcraft is simply the art of drifting away from light. But the same power that built the drift can reverse it. awareness, intention, gratitude. These three are your sacred trinity of awakening. Awareness opens your eyes. Intention directs your will. Gratitude heals your heart. Together they reclaim your house. They transform your kitchen from a place of consumption to a place of creation. You no longer eat just to live, you live to create life. You no longer clean because you must, you clean because clarity is sacred. The battle is never out there, it's always here, between the spoon and the spirit, the plate and the purpose. You're either casting spells of neglect or prayers of gratitude. Every action is worship of something. The only question is, what are you worshipping? But here is the strange and holy secret. The darkness does not fear your power. It fears your awareness. Because when you become aware, the spell breaks. When you notice what you once ignored, when you thank what you once used, when you love what you once took for granted, every shadow loses its hold. The greatest form of witchcraft is not in a ritual, it's in unconscious living. The greatest form of holiness is not in religion, it's in remembrance. The remembrance that life itself is sacred, that every breath, every taste, every sound, every heartbeat is evidence of grace. Awareness is light, and light does not fight darkness, it simply reveals it for what it is. And this is the paradox that confounds the modern mind. You keep searching for transformation in grand gestures, while heaven hides it in the daily bread. You wait for divine revelation, but it's already there in the steam rising from your cup of tea. You ask for miracles while ignoring the miracle that your heart has not stopped beating once since the day you were born. What greater wonder do you seek? What more proof of divine love do you need? The witchcraft of modern life is that it convinces you to chase more, while robbing you of awe for what is already here. It steals your soul, not by violence, but by distraction. So many people wake up each day under a spell, not of evil magic, but of numbness. They scroll before they breathe. They react before they think. They speak before they understand. They consume before they give. And all the while, they wonder why their hearts feel hollow. Because witchcraft doesn't just live in your kitchen, it lives in your schedule, in your habits, in your unchecked emotions. It lives wherever you have surrendered awareness for automation. The world calls it efficiency. Heaven calls it exile. But the Spirit calls you back to simplicity, to meaning, to the sacred rhythm of being human again. Because your worth is not in what you produce, it's in what you become while producing. The kitchen is not about cooking, it's about creating. Creation is divine participation. It's you echoing the voice that said, "Let there be light." Every meal you prepare, every task you finish, every space you cleanse is an echo of that command. You were born to bring order from chaos. That's what separates you from the darkness, your ability to create light where there was none. Look closer. Every object in your kitchen is a lesson about the soul. The knife teaches discernment, knowing what to cut away, what to keep. The flame teaches transformation, that nothing raw becomes nourishing until it faces fire. The salt teaches balance too little, and life is bland. Too much, and it burns. Even the plate teaches limits, that even abundance must be contained within gratitude. There is wisdom in everything if your eyes are open. The sacred hides in the simple, but the witchcraft of blindness keeps you from seeing it. It makes you believe the mundane has no meaning. And once you believe that, you stop living, you merely exist. There is an old magic, older than witchcraft, the magic of gratitude. It turns emptiness into fullness. It turns waiting into worship. It turns scarcity into sufficiency. The thankful heart is a shield no darkness can pierce. Gratitude makes the home glow with invisible fire. It transforms every act into prayer, every gesture into praise. You want to drive the witchcraft out of your home? Start thanking again. Thank the meal before it's cooked. Thank the water before you drink. Thank the hands that serve and the breath that lets you live. Gratitude is exorcism without drama. It is light entering the cracks of the soul. And beware the quiet spell of cynicism. It comes dressed as intelligence, but it poisons the heart. It tells you that hope is naive, that faith is foolish, that kindness is weakness. But cynicism is not wisdom, it's fatigue. It's the voice of one who once believed and got disappointed. But faith is not ignorance. It's rebellion against despair. Faith is the courage to believe in light, even when surrounded by shadow. Every cynic was once a dreamer betrayed by his own expectations. Don't let bitterness become your prophet. Don't let disappointment rewrite your theology. Hope is not childish. It is the highest form of sanity in a broken world. Do not let the kitchen of your soul become cluttered with memories of failure. Clean it. Forgive. Release. Start again. The divine is not found in perfection, it is found in redemption. Your scars are not curses. They are maps that lead back to humility. Every burn, every mistake, every moment of waste becomes wisdom when you surrender it to learning. God never wastes pain, only we do. And when we learn to bless our brokenness, we rob the witchcraft of shame of its power. Have you noticed how silence feels heavy these days, as if quiet itself has become a threat? That's how you know the soul is under siege. Witchcraft loves noise. It keeps you too distracted to heal. But when you dare to sit in silence, when you dare to face your own thoughts without a screen, something holy stirs. The noise of the world fades, and you begin to hear the whisper of eternity again. Silence is not empty, it's pregnant with presence. It's where the spirit of wisdom speaks. That is why the modern world fears it. But the saints, the thinkers, the lovers of truth, they made silence their sanctuary. That's where revelation is born. That's where the cluttered kitchen of the heart becomes clean again. The real danger of witchcraft is not its darkness, it's its subtlety. It doesn't demand your worship. It seduces it. It doesn't tell you to serve evil. It convinces you that good is boring. It doesn't ask for your soul. It asks for your attention. And once it has that, it owns you. The war of our age is not fought with swords, it's fought with focus. What you give your attention to becomes your altar. You cannot cast out what you secretly adore. That is why awareness is sacred armor. Every time you reclaim your focus, you reclaim your freedom. Your kitchen can be your classroom if you let it. Every act of preparation is a reminder that greatness grows from small beginnings. You chop, you stir, you wait, and in that waiting you learn patience. You fail a recipe, and in that failure you learn humility. You share a meal, and in that sharing you learn generosity. The kitchen teaches you everything about life if you listen long enough. The tragedy is that most people rush through it, missing the parables carved into their countertops. There's a reason divine revelation has always been tied to meals. The Last Supper wasn't just a meal, it was a moment where the eternal broke bread with the temporal, where God reminded man that communion happens in simplicity, that heaven is not distant, it sits at your table. That's the antidote to witchcraft, communion. The act of being present with one another, with life, with the source. Every time you eat with awareness, you taste eternity. Every time you forgive at the table, you rebuild the kingdom. And so, your kitchen becomes the altar of your destiny. Each choice, each word, each thought an offering. What are you offering today? Are you feeding resentment or reverence? Are you serving greed or gratitude? Are you dining with fear or with faith? Because make no mistake, you are always feeding something. The question is whether you're nourishing your demons or your angels. To be truly rich is to awaken the sacredness in what is already yours. Riches are not found in gold or possessions. They are found in clarity. A clear conscience is wealth. A grateful heart is abundance. A disciplined mind is power. The modern sorcery that enslaves man is the lie that he must acquire to feel worthy. But the truth is the opposite. When you realize your worth, you stop needing to acquire. The rich spirit does not hoard, it multiplies. It creates, it gives, it blesses. True prosperity begins when you stop asking, what can I get? And start asking, what can I become? Every time you enter your kitchen, remember this. The universe is watching how you handle what you have. The unseen judges your stewardship. Heaven invests in order, not chaos. The universe expands in proportion to your gratitude. You are not punished for neglect. You are limited by it. The door to more opens only when you honor the little. You want more abundance? Bless what's already in your hands. You want more opportunities? Master the small ones first. You want a greater life? Live greatly in the smallest room of your home. And as you stand there alone, washing a dish, cleaning the counter, making tea, know this. You are not just surviving. You are practicing holiness. You are participating in the oldest ritual of the cosmos, the transformation of chaos into order, of the ordinary into the sacred. That is creation. That is power. That is the end of witchcraft and the beginning of wisdom. And when you finally understand this, everything changes. You stop seeing your kitchen as a room and start seeing it as a reflection of your inner kingdom. You begin to realize that every act of order is a declaration of who you are becoming. Every motion of cleaning, every act of attention, every breath of gratitude becomes a vote for heaven. And when you begin to live this way, consciously, reverently, intentionally, the atmosphere shifts. Peace takes residence where anxiety once slept. Light begins to dance where resentment once hid. You begin to notice beauty where others see nothing, because your eyes have been washed clean by wonder. And then, without forcing it, your life begins to multiply. Because the truth is, wealth was never meant to begin in the bank. It begins in the heart. Abundance begins with attention. The man who cannot manage his inner world will never manage his outer one. That's why the universe hides prosperity behind responsibility to keep it safe from the careless. The poor man blames his circumstances, but the wise man inspects his habits. The poor man prays for miracles while wasting the blessings already in his grasp. He wants light, but refuses to open the blinds. He asks for peace, but will not silence his mind. He wants prosperity, but despises discipline. And that is witchcraft, in its purest form, wanting the fruit without planting the seed. C.S. Lewis once wrote that hell is not locked from the outside, it is locked from within. The soul under witchcraft is not trapped by demons, but by denial. You keep waiting for change to knock at your door, not realizing it's been standing in your kitchen all along. The power to transform your life is in your hands every day, hidden behind the simplest decisions: how you eat, how you speak, how you treat what you already have. The sacred does not demand grandeur, it demands gratitude. The devil hides in extravagance, but God hides in discipline. You find him not in noise, but in nuance. And that is why your kitchen, that small, unassuming space, is the perfect battleground for your becoming. Because here, there are no crowds to impress, no followers to count, no applause to crave. Only you, the task, and the truth of who you really are when no one is watching, the truth of how you live when there is no spotlight. That is where character is forged in silence, in service, in the art of doing small things with great care. You say you want to get rich, to change yourself, to live better, then start where you stand. Start with what you touch every day. Greatness doesn't descend like lightning. It grows like bread, slow, patient, invisible, but unstoppable once risen. Every great man was once an ordinary man who decided to do one thing: care more. Care about his actions. Care about his energy. Care about his presence. He understood that excellence is not a performance, it's a lifestyle. It's not what you do when people see you. It's what you refuse to compromise on when they don't. The witchcraft of mediocrity whispers, no one will notice. But heaven always notices. The invisible world moves according to invisible principles. Clean the counter, and the mind clears. Wash the cup, and the conscience calms. Act with integrity in the smallest task, and the universe rearranges itself to match your frequency. This is the divine economy. It rewards alignment, not ambition. It multiplies stewardship, not greed. The man who honors his kitchen will one day command a kingdom. And this is the true meaning of richness, to be a vessel of value wherever you are placed. To turn the ordinary into the extraordinary through awareness. To give meaning to what others overlook. Because the rich man is not the one who has the most, but the one who sees the most in what he has. Gratitude multiplies everything it touches. Ingratitude curses even abundance. That's why so many people live surrounded by blessings but feel barren inside, because witchcraft blinded them with comparison. It made them measure life by what's missing instead of what's manifesting. There is a holy law written in silence. You cannot rise above what you refuse to revere. If you want life to bless you, you must bless life first. If you want success to notice you, you must notice the sacred. Your energy is a magnet. What you resent repels. What you appreciate attracts. The ungrateful heart pushes abundance away, because abundance cannot live where dishonor resides. Gratitude is not a feeling, it's a discipline. It's a chosen awareness that no matter how small the gift, it's still grace. So open your eyes. Look around your kitchen again. The witchcraft of blindness has made you think it's just a mess, but it's a metaphor. The clutter on your counter is the clutter in your mind. The half-finished tasks are the half-lived dreams. The stale leftovers are the emotions you never processed. The unwashed dishes are the grudges you never forgave. Clean one, and you begin to cleanse them all. That's not housework, that's soul work. Every act of order in your environment creates harmony in your spirit. That is not superstition, that is metaphysical law. The external is a mirror of the internal, and when you begin to treat your environment as sacred, you stop inviting darkness in, because darkness feeds on neglect. It thrives where you refuse to look. It multiplies in the corners of avoidance. That's why the first step to freedom is awareness not of the outside world, but of your own. You must look into the corners of your heart and ask, what have I left unattended? Because every unattended thing eventually grows teeth. Every unhealed wound becomes an invitation for bitterness. Every ignored truth becomes a whisper of self-betrayal. That's the real witchcraft, the slow corrosion of the soul through inattention. But the moment you face it, light floods in. Darkness cannot dwell where awareness lives. And once you see clearly, you begin to choose differently. You begin to cook with intention. You begin to speak with kindness. You begin to live as though everything matters. Because it does. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Excellence is not a talent, it's a tone of the soul. The kitchen, in truth, is not a place of food, it's a place of faith. Every meal is a declaration, I believe in tomorrow. Every act of care says, I honor life. Every moment of awareness says, I am awake. That's how you drive witchcraft out, not with fear, but with faith. Not by condemning darkness, but by increasing light. Because you do not defeat darkness by fighting it. You defeat it by outshining it. And so, the journey of getting rich, of changing yourself, of living more positively, is not about chasing more, it's about returning to meaning. The modern man has everything but purpose. He has speed but no direction, pleasure but no peace, noise but no wisdom. He built skyscrapers, but lost his soul somewhere between the floors. He learned how to manipulate the world, but forgot how to master himself. That is the witchcraft of progress. Without presence, growth without grace. But you are different. You have heard the call. You feel it even now, that quiet conviction that life must be more than this blur of days and bills and meals and screen. You know there's something sacred beneath the surface of the ordinary. And that's the spark, the divine rebellion against the spell of numbness. You were not born to drift. You were born to awaken, to sanctify the simple, to live with such intensity of gratitude that the mundane becomes miraculous. This is how the transformation begins. Not in the noise of ambition, but in the silence of alignment. Not by reaching for more, but by realizing you already hold everything you need. You begin to rise not by acquiring, but by refining. By polishing the soul until it gleams like gold. By choosing excellence in every small act until mediocrity flees. You start to notice that the kitchen of your heart has changed. It smells of peace, it glows with purpose, it hums with quiet power. The witchcraft of apathy has been replaced by the alchemy of awareness. You are no longer a victim of the unseen. You are a participant in creation. You are the light worker in your own home, the priest of your own temple, the guardian of your own gate. And as you stand there, looking at your reflection in a pot of boiling water, you realize something extraordinary. You are both the flame and the vessel. You are both the one who cooks and the one being cooked by life's lessons. You are being refined. You are becoming pure. And in that realization, all fear dissolves. You stop trying to cast out shadows because you understand that shadows only exist where light is present. The presence of struggle is not the absence of God, it's the proof that He's still shaping you. The witchcraft of the world wants you to curse the process. The wisdom of the divine asks you to trust it. So clean your kitchen, but more importantly, cleanse your mind. Bless your meal, but more importantly, bless your moment. Because this moment is the doorway to eternity, disguised as now. And when you finally live in awareness of that truth, you will discover that heaven was never a distant realm. It was right here waiting for you to wake up. The world outside tells you that success is measured in speed, in how much you can accumulate before your candle burns out. But eternity whispers a different truth. The purpose of life is not to own more, but to become more. Not to conquer matter, but to master meaning. You were not born to chase gold, you were born to forge it within. The alchemy of the soul does not require fortune, it requires fire. And life will give you that fire whether you ask for it or not. Every delay, every disappointment, every burden that feels unbearable is heat meant to purify, not destroy. The kitchen teaches